Hello, and welcome to Locate Guernsey's Business Deep Dive, which is part of our winter virtual event series. My name is Jo Stoddart and I'm the Director of Locate Guernsey. We're a Guernsey government-funded agency whose role is to promote the island as a destination of choice for individual and business relocation. We provide free guidance, information and assistance to individuals and businesses who are considering relocating to the island, and work with them to establish the best and easiest way for them to achieve their goals. There are many benefits to running a business in Guernsey, and our panel will share their personal experiences of doing just that. They will also discuss the logistics of establishing a company on the island and talk about the practical support available to Guernsey businesses, as well as the support, encouragement and activities within the island's business community. This business deep dive is kindly supported by PwC Channel Islands. So before we start our discussion, please enjoy this brief video.
We're taught that 1 + 1 = 2. Simple, right? But today's world isn't simple. So, what happens if we look at it from a new angle? Could we make something greater? If we bring together human ingenuity, passion, and experience with the latest technology, we start to make something more. Something we can see in people's lives and feel in the world around them. Building trust for today and tomorrow. And that's the thing. We all know the math. But we need a new way to put it together. Which means we don't just find answers. We never stop looking for them. A passionate community of solvers, coming together in unexpected ways, creating new solutions for a new day. That's the new equation.
I'm joined today by Lucy Kirby, who moved to Guernsey as a young girl with her parents and has lived on the island since then, apart from time spent studying in the UK at university. She's responsible for driving forward Guernsey's digital strategy and is director of the Digital Greenhouse, an innovation and entrepreneurial hub in the centre of St Peter Port. I'm also joined by Edward Bowen, who relocated with his wife and children to Guernsey 2 years ago from the UK. Edward runs his own business from the island and has a strong family connection to Alderney, having spent part of his childhood there. And our third guest is Helen Gaines, Guernsey's company registrar. Helen is a Guernsey girl who has spent a large part of her life living in Guernsey, apart from time spent at university in the UK. Helen, perhaps you could start us off by telling us about the Guernsey Registry.
Yeah, the Guernsey Registry is, in effect, it's the equivalent of Companies House in the UK. We were set up 13 years ago. Prior to that, company incorporation in Guernsey was a court-based system. So the concept behind the Guernsey Registry was that we would move to being a more efficient way of incorporating companies, and that it would be an online provision.
Fantastic. So are there any restrictions in terms of what you can do if you want to set up a company in Guernsey? Do people have to get permissions or licenses, or do they have to be approved by regulatory bodies?
Technically speaking, no. It's going to depend on what the purpose of the company actually is. So if you are looking to undertake what we call regulated activity here in Guernsey, then you're going to fall under the oversight of the Guernsey Financial Services Commission, so you would need to get licences to undertake those types of activities. But for the average individual that's moving to the island, or living in the island, they want to set up their own business, trading with the local populace, it should be a relatively simple process for them. Each company will need a minimum of 1 director. And all companies here on Guernsey must have what we call a resident agent. Now, the resident agent has to be a director of the company resident here in Guernsey, or it can be a corporate service provider. And the role of the resident agent is to maintain the beneficial ownership behind the company. But for most local trading companies here in Guernsey, they will self-administer, so they act as their own directors, their own shareholders, and they will undertake their own beneficial ownership filings. More complicated structures, individuals that perhaps are based overseas but still want to have a Guernsey registered company can do so, but they would have to go through the trust and corporate service provider industry. And in those instances, they get the services provided for them by that sector. And again, they can provide directorships, nominee shareholdings, and they'll undertake all the relevant filings with us in the registry.
Okay. And so what about small sole trader type operations? What would they have to do?
So sole traders, they don't have to incorporate a company, so it's a decision. So if you are perhaps a landscape gardener, you can make the decision either to incorporate a company or not incorporate a company. By incorporating a company, what you're doing is you're limiting your liability. So if in the provision of your services something goes wrong and litigation follows, then with an incorporated company, it's the company that's at fault and is going to be pursued through the courts rather than you as an individual. If it's you as an individual, then all of your personal assets could be at risk. So it's a decision for individuals to make when they're trading. It depends, again, on the services that they're providing, and the level of risk that they might find themselves exposed to will then influence whether they choose to incorporate a company or not.
Okay. And so what requirements are there for running a limited company in terms of filing accounts, etc.?
So as I say, all companies must have a minimum of one director here, but not here in Guernsey, but a minimum of one director, and they must have that resident agent. Filings-wise with us, they will have to undertake what we call the annual validation each year, and that is where they are validating the information that we hold on the register remains true and up to date. That process is undertaken every year in January and February. In addition to that, there are ongoing filings. So if there are resolutions passed, then they have to make those filings with us within 30 days of passing the resolutions. And also where there are changes in directors or resident agent, there's 14 days to advise us of that.
Okay, so roughly how much does it cost to set up and run a limited company?
So again, it's going to depend really on the complexity of the structure of the company. So for the local traders, perhaps where they are going to be their own directors and they're going to administer it for themselves, they have to go through a corporate service provider. So unfortunately, they are looking at a minimum of perhaps £800 to incorporate the company. But that is because the corporate service provider industry are regulated by the industry, by the Financial Services Commission, and it's a well-regulated industry, but that comes at a cost, and so they do pass that on to their customers. But as part of the incorporation process through a corporate service provider, they're undertaking a large amount of due diligence on the clients as part of the onboarding process, and this is part of Guernsey's commitment to international financial standards and combating financial crime and money laundering activity. So the actual incorporation itself with the registries, the fee itself is only £100. And then, as I say, ongoing costs will depend whether the corporate service provider is providing you with directorships and filing activity, then obviously they charge annual rates. If not, if they're just filing directly themselves, the company, they will pay sort of £10 maybe to change registered office address or to make changes to filings in relation to directors. And then the annual validation fee, if it's what we call a non-regulated company, so one where it's self-administering, involved in trading with the local populace, they're paying £250 a year to be incorporated and maintain that liability status.
Okay, thank you. So, Edward, to give us some context regarding the type and size of operation you're involved with and you're able to run from Guernsey, can you tell me a bit about your business and your client base?
Certainly. So we're working for most of the world's energy companies, be they oil and gas or in the renewable space, and we're trading in about 34 countries where we will put small teams in to look after exploration and development projects. Our headquarters are based here in Guernsey, and the majority of our work, of course, is remote, but we're able to do that from here with the benefit of everybody being remote. So it's actually relatively straightforward. Setting up the business here was very easy and was quick. and the regulation allows us to operate compliantly, but also very, very efficiently.
Okay. And so what do you think of the island's business community and professional advisors? Has it been relatively easy to run your business here?
It has been, and one of the things that Guernsey is so brilliant at is the very sort of friendly business environment that we find ourselves in. So people are very quick to offer their help and their support, and actually you're coming into a system that's particularly mature. So you've got all the major banks here, both high street and private. You've got those old traditional relationship managers where you can actually talk to somebody face to face. They can get to understand your business, what type of growth you're looking for, whether you need finance, debt, leverage, and so on. You've got all of the big accountancy firms here, and then a plethora of tier 2, smaller owner-managed businesses where you're talking to partners, which ordinarily in the UK you wouldn't get to that level, not without paying some pretty hefty fees. So that's, you know, that I think in this environment is fairly unique. Apart from that, you've actually got a very skilled workforce, and that's partly down to the high level of education that's available on the island. So there's absolutely no reason why you can't run a forward-thinking, innovative business from a jurisdiction that is frankly very pro-business.
That's really encouraging to hear, actually. And do you find it relatively easy then to meet like-minded business people, and are people open to meeting new arrivals?
I think very much so. People are just generally very welcoming. Because you've got such a good work-life balance, you tend to find that a lot of the firms will get you involved in events that they're running, whether they're corporate, social, or in fact sporting. So actually you break down those barriers very quickly, and you can get the level of advice, you know, at the right stage that you're looking for very simply.
Excellent. So, Lucy, what sort of support does the Digital Greenhouse provide for businesses?
So we see a real range of businesses, from very, very early stage startups. So people coming in with an initial idea, they can come to a full day boot camp. They can immerse themselves in those initial stages of ideation and minimum viable product and work their way through, all the way through to businesses who are looking to scale. We're lucky that we have a number of corporate partners and venture building partners who support us with programs for individuals who may be second or third time entrepreneurs, who have done the startup piece before, but now they're looking to scale. They want to take their products maybe off island internationally, or diversify into a different market, and we can provide those programs of support for them.
So if people come and they recruit staff locally, but the staff don't necessarily have the right sort of skill sets for the business, what sort of training is available?
So we found that there are some core areas that are really in need of upskilling internationally, not just within the islands. So we have created a range of programs, digital apprenticeships, boot camps, that firms can, or individuals can come forwards for. They can sign up to these fully funded programs and pick up those essential skills that we're starting to really see accelerate. So it's particularly around areas like data, so data science, data analytics, business analysis, also in the marketing side as well. And these are really fantastic programs because of the way in which they flexibly support employees and individuals, entrepreneurs, to upskill themselves.
And tell us a little bit about the community that you have at the Digital Greenhouse.
So it's a really interesting community. It's really grown. We've been open for just coming up for 6 years now. And during that time, really, we've been like a startup business ourselves. We now have over 100 residents within the buildings. We have our own co-work space. But we work with around 10,000 people a year across the island. And that community is a really diverse range of startup businesses, a lot of digital businesses and creative businesses. I think to the point you made earlier, the connectivity from a digital perspective means that the island can be part of that international market from an employment perspective, but also for growing your teams. You can connect out to expertise anywhere in the world now by being connected digitally. And so we're seeing a real community both on island, but also that connection internationally.
Excellent. So, Helen, tell me, how does the legislation about economic substance affect those who establish businesses in Guernsey?
So economic substance bites predominantly on what are considered to be high-risk business activities. So companies that are in the financial services sector, and particularly intellectual property companies. And in effect, what we're looking for is trying to evidence that the companies actually have an economic substance based here in Guernsey, that they're managed and controlled out of Guernsey, and it's very much driven around sort of taxation. And so what economic substance is doing through the tax or revenue services over here is them actually establishing that the companies do have a proper substance base here, and where they establish that they don't, then obviously we will work with the companies to try and rectify that situation. All the companies will have to leave the jurisdiction. And obviously there are other sanctions. We can strike companies off and dissolve them that don't meet with those requirements. But it is driven around taxation. Again, it's all part of the international standards on transparency, but also around money laundering and financial crime.
Okay. So what are the sort of types of businesses which we've been seeing established in Guernsey in the last few years? What are the sort of things that prosper and flourish and do well in Guernsey?
So within the financial services sector, there's a lot of private client, sort of wealth management, sort of private trust structures. I think we have a thriving funds industry. And then sort of at the non-financial level, we have an awful lot of private asset holding companies, where individuals will hold their assets through company structures. And again, we are seeing the local trading companies here, the hairdressers, plumbers, those people engaged in commerce with local people. And again, obviously, the Guernsey Registry is also acts as the intellectual property office. So again, we can support the entrepreneurial and the digital companies that are coming online, and sort of encourage them to protect their intellectual property as well. So I think that's quite an interesting and growing area.
Excellent. Do any of you have anything to add to?
The only thing I think I'd say, Joe, is bringing a service business to the island, an opportunity to work over multiple time zones, but yet still maintain a good work-life balance and an ability to see your children and see them grow up. We took our business from the UK, where it wasn't uncommon to sit on the M25 for 3 hours a day, and an hour and a half at each end, where frankly we were less efficient, less profitable, and arguably didn't get to see our children grow up. And I think with the connectivity that Guernsey's got, and clearly that is moving in leaps and bounds, you can run your business from anywhere. Why not do it in a jurisdiction that tax-wise is very efficient, but also maintains a really great quality of life? And that, for me, is what's so unique about Guernsey and the Channel Islands.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Helen, Lucy and Edward, for your contributions. Please join us for the other webinars in this winter virtual event series, where we'll be finding out more about property in Guernsey, healthcare, and also for further information about immigration and residency. And for further information about anything that we have discussed today, or for initial conversation about the ease with which individuals and businesses can relocate to Guernsey, please contact the team at Locate Guernsey by using the email address or the telephone number on the screen. We'd be delighted to help. So thank you very much indeed for listening.